Thank you. Thank you all very much. The Freedom Caucus, I think, in the House, do you want to go? No, no. Okay. The Freedom Caucus in the House, I think, has taken a position that the House budget should go back to sequestration levels for this year. General Dunford, what would your response to that position be?
My immediate response, Senator, would be we will have to revise the defense strategy if we go back to sequestration. We will not be able to do what we need to do right now. And when I say revise the strategy, it's important to emphasize we'll have to revise the ends of our strategy because we will not be able to protect our interests in the same way that's articulated right now in our national security strategy and our defense strategy.
What effect would that have on our national security?
It would cause us to expose the nation to risk from those 5 challenges that the Secretary and I have spoken about
Would
today.
you say significant risk?
I would say significant risk.
It actually put our freedom at risk.
It would absolutely affect that.
Okay. I sent you a letter, and you've given me a very timely response, and I appreciate it, General Dunford, about some have suggested that we intentionally target civilians in the war on terror and that we go back to using waterboarding or maybe even more aggressive interrogation techniques. And you've given me a good response, which I'll share with the public later. But I forgot to ask one question. What effect, if any, would this have on the warfighter if we started telling our men and women in uniform to intentionally target civilian non-combatants and engage in techniques such as waterboarding or more extreme forms of interrogation?
Well, Senator, what I've said publicly before is that, our men and women, and we ought to be proud of it, when they go to war with the values of our nation. And those kind of activities that you've described, they're inconsistent with the values of our nation. And quite frankly, I think it would have an adverse effect, as many adverse effects would have. One of them would be on the morale of the force. Yeah. And frankly, what you're suggesting are things that actually aren't legal for them to do anyway.
Well, I don't think I've ever met a tougher guy than you, and I think it would hurt your morale if you were ordered to kill innocent non-combatants. So, Raqqa. Do you see Raqqa falling this year, taken away from Isil?
Senator, we're focused right now on isolating Raqqa, limiting the enemy's freedom of movement. I can't put a timeline on when Raqqa will fall. I can tell you that we're working very closely with indigenous forces on the ground to isolate and then subsequently...
Do you agree with me the likelihood of Raqqa falling between now and the election is pretty remote?
Senator, again, I haven't put a timeline on it.
When it came to liberating Fallujah, how many U.S. soldiers or military personnel involved?
Senator, we had 14,000 U.S. personnel that were involved immediately in the operations around Fallujah, but obviously many more in the surrounds that had a isolation effect.
If they haven't been there, would the outcome have been different? If we were not using American military personnel to deal with Fallujah?
Well, at that time, Senator, we did not have capable indigenous forces. There was not an alternative to U.S. forces in Fallujah. Compare
the indigenous forces in Syria today with the indigenous forces that existed at the Battle of Fallujah. Are they more capable in Syria than they were in Iraq?
Today, I would assess the Syrian Democratic Forces, based on their performance at Shadadi and other recent operations, are more capable relative to the threat that exists in Syria than what we had in Iraq back in 2004.
Are they more capable of taking Raqqa than the Iraqis were of taking Fallujah?
In 2004 and 2005, I would assess yes.
Okay. How many Arabs are in the Syrian Democratic Forces?
Right now, we have about 10 to 15,000 Syrian Democratic Forces, of which 5,000 are Arabs, and there's an estimated 20 to 30,000 additional reserve Syrian Democratic Forces.
Is it your testimony that the people we're training inside of Syria are capable of taking Raqqa back from Isil and holding it?
At this time, Senator, no, but we intend on growing their capabilities over time, and I would qualify that by saying that they're also going to require some support from the coalition.
Okay. Iran, post-agreement, is Iran becoming a better actor in the region, or their behavior gotten worse post-nuclear agreement?
Senator, Iran was a malign influence in the region prior to the agreement. Iran remains a malign influence today.
Do you think Mosul will be in the hands of ISIL by the end of this year?
Senator, I don't have, similar to Raqqa, I wouldn't put a timeline on when we would secure Mosul, but again, I would emphasize that operations against Mosul are ongoing.
Is
even
taking Mosul going to be more difficult than what we had to do in Fallujah in 2004 and 5?
significantly more difficult based on the population and the size of the enemy.
So if you take Mosul without 14,000 American military members, does that make it even more significantly different?
Senator, it really is a correlation of forces issue, and right now we've identified over 12 brigades of Iraqi security forces, additional Peshmerga forces, and we're in the process of generating effective Sunni forces. So the idea is that we'll isolate Mosul until the conditions are set for those forces to be successful in securing Mosul.
Finally, between 2016 and 2021, the next 5-year window, we've talked about what's happened since 2011 to now. Generally speaking, do our national security threats, do they maintain at this level, go up or go down? What can America expect in the next 5 years in terms of threats, and what kind of budget should we have?
Yeah, I think I would assess based on the trajectory we see today, I don't see our security challenges decreasing over the next 5 years, Senator, for sure.
Agree with that, Mr. Secretary?
I do.